Hello everyone and welcome to the Wolfszeit channel. Today with a very special topic, always special. The fight performance, because a lot of people have reached out to me and said which graphics settings should I use to get the optimal FPS, or more or less a trade-off, or what is the difference between low and ultra settings and is it so hard noticeable? Just for example, when we compare the ultra settings here, so these are the ultra settings, and now we compare to the high settings. I know it's very smooth, but maybe you can see it. But the difference is not so much as I expected, because it eats a lot more FPS when you're using ultra mode. But if you compare now the high settings with the middle settings, so here is the transition for the middle settings. At the NPCs, there are not so many details that are different. For the player models, this is something different. We will look into that shortly. So here now for the NPCs or for the trees in the background, even medium settings are okay. And now we can compare this a little bit further to the low settings. And this has, for me, for example, the best trade-off. I tried a lot with the medium settings, the low settings, and I have 100 FPS more with the low settings. So let's compare it further. So another brief example, these are the ultra settings, everything on ultra. And if we compare these with the ultra low settings, oh, wait for the transition. So we went from 60 FPS to 160 FPS. And the trade-off seems okay. So even when you go down the settings a little bit, it doesn't hurt your visual experience so hard as people expect. So I'm now comparing this to the medium settings and see it for yourself. The difference here is not so much. So this is medium and now we go back to ultra again. And have you noticed that? Have you noticed that? This is exactly the point. And comparing this to the old videos, this is very good. And some are also playing at settings that is not meant for their hardware. So if you're, for example, going to a mass fight, then of course you're setting everything to low as possible. Maybe even your resolution to low as possible, to having as much FPS as possible. And if you're struggling with FPS, I've also made an FPS tutorial. It's linked down in the description. Because with a little bit of fine-tuning, you can achieve a lot more FPS. Even when you're de-bloating your Windows, because Windows is loading suddenly 100 secret shit services in the background where it's mind-boggling to me. But here's the most interesting thing in moving. So some may notice that there's a big difference in there, and some would argue that there's nearly no difference in there. It also depends on your personal viewpoint, of course. But on the left, I'm having 160 FPS, and on the right, I'm having 60 FPS. Another interesting comparison is if you see the FPS in the bottom there. Just look at that. It looks pretty decent. Everything is set on very low. So now if we compare this with the ultra setting, then you can see that the visuals looking maybe a little bit more appealing, just a little bit, but I'm having 100 FPS less for that. The thing is, of course, in the distance, you will notice it. Or maybe not, it also depends. And a lot of people wrote in the comments, also directly contacted me and said that they have a lot of FPS problems with their systems and stuff. So here, for example, we are having a lot of people on the battlefield. A lot of people are fighting there and we're having about 22 FPS. Of course, there are a few hiccups, maybe with the recording. Everything is set to medium. And with that resolution, and so many people on the screen, he still manages to have 20 to 30 FPS. Sadly, I was not there in the fight with my specs, but we have the specs of Axel, so we can compare it a little bit. So this is the processor Axel uses, which is a decent gaming processor. And by the way, because Mortal often uses the first core the most, you could also buy this processor, which is half the price, and you would have nearly the same FPS. The problem comes with older processors. Just for example, this one from 6 to 7 years ago. The most reports I get about shitty FPS in mass fights are people that bought a processor before Corona came. Like, for example, these processors here. In a ranking 228, for example. And this could be a potential problem. But Axel still uses the same processor as before they made the performance adjustments. And he had 5 FPS, so this is a huge improvement. The website user benchmark is also listed in the description below. And I would recommend to you that when you're buying a new processor, you should buy one with a rank from 1 to 50. Or at least something where the first core performance is crazy. With the graphics cards, it's very interesting because in mass fights, the graphics cards are not often a limiting factor. So even a 3060 can have decent FPS. But if you are, for example, playing with a 20 card or a 1080 or 1060, or 1070 and stuff, then it could be a real problem. And this is why I also have an idea solution for StarVolt. Maybe you also like the idea, maybe. Because after all these performance improvements, where a lot of people having more performance, which is awesome, there are still people who are struggling a lot. Because, of course, some hardware is expensive. But you also can make a system that you have decent FPS in in mass fights with a low budget. And I guess I will try that soon. So my proposed solution, it's not my proposed solution, it's just something that I have seen. For example, Rust has a potato mode. The Rust potato mode improves the FPS with a tremendous amount because it just renders everything in absolutely shit quality. And maybe Star Wars could also implement something like a potato mode where everything just looks like complete crap, but it doesn't matter because you are in for the competitiveness of the PvP and stuff. So people could use the potato mode for mass fights. The downfall, the big down on the potato mode is, firstly, it takes again development time, but because they have currently enough shit to do with the Reckoning patch. And a small downfall would be, of course, that when people are looking for Mortal Online and someone is playing potato mode and maybe streaming that, or I don't know, making videos about that, then it doesn't look so good. But this is just a small downfall compared to someone can't play, I guess. I mean, not everyone loves a potato mode. I would never use it, I guess. But better someone can play it than someone that want to play it but can't play it. So I guess a potato mode is always a good idea, maybe. And another whole topic is I have seen a lot of people making unlimited FPS in their settings while they're having only a 60 Hz monitor. For everyone who don't know, don't use a 60 Hz monitor and using unlimited FPS. When you're having a 60 Hz monitor, then limit your FPS on 60. It's quite that simple. Less stutters. And don't even get me started on G-Sync, V-Sync and all the other shit. In the end, it boils down of what do you want, how much do you want to pay for it, and can Star Wars do some more stuff. And they have improved their game performance by a lot, and this is very awesome. But Star Wars can still do stuff because there are still people out there who are complaining that they're having shitty FPS in mass fights. And the only thing that can help there is, sadly, a potato mode. I also don't like a potato mode in terms of visual, because when I'm playing Mortal and I'm seeing just crap graphics everywhere, I could just puke in a bucket. But it's better to have a potato mode than not having players that play. So yeah, I mean, this is just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, okay? Could be completely wrong. So yeah, please leave your opinion in the comments. Would be very nice, by the way. And if you have the time, you can also participate in the voting. This is also linked in the description. I mean, in the end, I can only say Star Wars did a great job on the performance improvements because a lot of people had more performance than before. Sadly, when you're using a very old processor, this could be a potential problem. I mean, even then you gained more FPS than before, but even for some processors, it's nearly impossible to having decent FPS when 300 people needs to be rendered on the screen and stuff needs to be calculated on the screen. I don't know if even a potato mode would fix that. I don't know. Anyway, if you found this video interesting, then please leave a like and subscribe. Would be really awesome, by the way. Please also write down in the comment section, would be very awesome, your PC specs, how much FPS you got and how much were in a fight or in the area or stuff. Because that would be very interesting. So special thanks to all these supporters, of course. Carmel, Lucario, Mr. Minerva, Damn Tired, Ronus, Paternax, Colum, Bulldog, and all the others, of course. So never forget to potato hard. I mean Partian. See you all next time. Goodbye.